Welcome to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend, the show that never cashes out early, especially today. We have got a great one for you. Coming up, a man that doesn't wear sleeves to work simply because he doesn't want to. I might try that. WWE superstar Kevin Owens joins us to talk Wrestlemania 41. He's got a big match against Randy Orton, and we're going to find out how he thinks he'll fare. I bet he's going to be confident. Something just tells me. And what also he thinks makes a great promo. Then, from big bumps to big bets, which top seed will top them all and win the men's college basketball national championship? The D3 join me. We're going to give out our Final Four picks and props. But before any of that, it's time for a segment that tests my reflexes and reactions. It involves our producer, Mikey Meatballs, throwing a crumpled up piece of paper with a thought written on it. I'll catch it, I'll read it, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the issue. We call this Tossing Topics. All right, fire away, Meatballs. Good one. Wrestlemania 40-year anniversary. All right, I mentioned that in a few minutes we have Kevin Owens on to talk this year's Wrestlemania, and it's insane to me that earlier this week, the original Wrestlemania celebrated its 40-year anniversary, March 31st, 1985. I was 13 years old. I bought a ticket to the Felt Forum for what was called closed circuit viewing. For $20, I got to watch the WrestleMania telecast on an oversized TV 100 yards from the Garden where the matches were actually taking place. And when my idol, Rowdy Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, lost to Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, who cheated like jerks, it made for a long Long Island Railroad trip back to Huntington. That was an example of a sad memory, one that for decades, 4 decades later actually, I still haven't gotten over. But my favorite memory was at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, Hell in a Cell match between Shane McMahon and The Undertaker. I took video, here it is. There's the splash, Shane misses, and there's my son Archie losing his mind, and look, there's the sportsish guy, and this was before all the Bill Simmons memes. I still can't believe Shane McMahon didn't need an actual Undertaker after that. It's perhaps my greatest moment in cinematography, and no wonder we can't get my 20-year-old to stop jumping off the dining room table. All right, Meatballs, toss me another one. Oh, a little short. Number 1 seeds. Okay, fine. Congratulations to all the experts who took all the number 1 seeds to meet up in the Final Four. You really went out on a layup limb. You nailed it. Wow, all 4 top seeds advanced to this weekend's festivities. I love it for the matchups. I just hate it for the people bragging about being in first place in their office pool. Let me give you an example. This is Joelle. She's in first place in the Jimmy Kimmel Live office pool. Nice enough, gal, but as far as sports goes, she knows nothing. If a basketball sat next to her during a Pilates class, she would start to pet it. She doesn't know the difference between Bruce Pearl and Pearl Harbor. She picked Duke to win it all because she's a big White Lotus fan. But it's not just Joelle. It's Joelle Billis and Joelle Williams who picked all 1 seeds, and I crushed them for doing so. Take a look. If all 4 ones make it to the Final Four this year, I will shave my head and change my name to Jay. Cousin Jay. Wow, I really said that?
Yep, sure did.
All right, listen, I was dealing with low blood sugar and high seed pressure, so sue me. Wait, Jay Billis is a lawyer. Please don't sue me. Look, we can all agree the only thing worse than my existing hair is to see me without any. I just can't do Mr. Clean. Plus, FanDuel says we've already met the quota of bald guys on this program. This is a gambling show, not a Breaking Bad audition. All right, one more, Mikey. Good. Haslam apologizes for Deshaun Watson. Okay, NFL win total over-unders came out this week, and Cleveland Browns at a healthy 5.5. Pretty sure that also includes the preseason. Anyway, it was enough for Brownies owner and giant orange tie aficionado Jimmy Haslam to issue an apology. He said, and I quote, "The team is still recovering from a big swing and miss on Deshaun Watson and to hold me and D accountable." Oh, a big swing is what Aaron Judge does in BP. What you did was the equivalent of buying 100,000 Hawk Tua coins right now. Also, I like how he throws his wife under the bus. Classy move. In their vows, they said for better or worse. The worst was owning the Browns. At least the Mavs owner had the decency to keep his old lady out of the Luka trade talk. Also, I thought Deshaun was rehabbing for a comeback. Incredible. This is the worst deal in the history of football, and everyone except the Haslams knew it immediately. But I need to give them some credit. They are responsible for the greatest jersey ever, and let's go ahead and add one more onto that bad boy. That's right. In a few months, it'll be Kenny Small Hands Pickett to the rescue. All right, that does it for tossing topics. Now it's time for my irrationally angry attempt to make rational sense of a somewhat irrational bet. It's wagering. Let's talk more college hoops. We're down to 3 games on the men's side. Same with the women's. It's not a contest, everyone. This isn't a boy-girl thing. They'll all get done eventually. The D3 and I will pick all the remaining games for all the sexes later in the show. But right now, I'm looking ahead to Monday when the NCAA will give out the award for the Final Four most outstanding player on the men's side. And my pick for that honor is Houston Cougars, LJ Cryer. You get plus 1,100 for that play. My pick to win the whole thing was Houston all the way back 2 weeks ago. There's my bracket. This is the longest a bracket of mine has survived since the mid-1600s. But to put this in perspective, Houston to cut down the nets pays plus 420. To get plus 1,100 on their best player winning MOP honors is a pretty good discrepancy. I'm willing to double down on what's basically a home game for the Cougars. The Final Four is in San Antonio, which is like 8 miles from Houston. All right, 197 miles. I'm not a geographist. It's still closer than Duke. Easier for fans to travel. My guy Cryer, 17 versus the Vols, a robust 30 versus the Zags. He's going to give enough to pull the upset, and then again on Monday. And if this bet doesn't hit, let's just say he won't be the only Cryer. Also, God help me if we don't get to use the White Lotus meme with the Duke father and the gun. Get me my lorazepam. The Blue Devils are going down. Apologies. That's the very best Parker Posey impression I have to offer. All right, coming up after the break, we step into the ring with Kevin Owens. We're going to talk to the WWE superstar about WrestleMania, his love of Adele, and his love of t-shirts. It's all next on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. All right, welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. I am very excited. WrestleMania 41 is just a couple weeks away, April 19th and 20th in Las Vegas. It's streaming live on Peacock, and our next guest has an integral role. He'll be taking on the Viper, Randy Orton. He's a WWE Grand Slam champion, and I spent hours last night looking this up. He's the only man in WWE history to hit a Swanton bomb while wearing a Mario Lemieux jersey. KO, Kevin Owens, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a great fact, actually.
Yeah. It took a while to dig up, but it is actually true. You know, I can't believe the first WrestleMania was 40 years ago. Earlier in the show, I was talking about my memory of wearing a kilt to Madison Square Garden. You were too young to remember that first one. But what is your first memory of actually watching or following a WrestleMania?
So actually, the reason I became a wrestler is because my dad, back when I was 11 years old, rented a VHS tape of WrestleMania 11. So I didn't watch it live, but that's the first, I knew of wrestling. I knew what the concept was, but I wasn't watching it. I wasn't a fan or anything like that. And one afternoon, my dad just went to get a movie. We'd seen everything. She's like, let's get this wrestling thing. And I was hooked, man, from then on. So WrestleMania 11 is my first memory of WrestleMania itself. Yeah.
That's awesome. What was the headline of that? I don't even remember. I can't tell.
Actually, the main event, So Can I. And from that point on, that was it, man.
What a great video rental that was for your father. I mean, it paid off. Nothing compares to it, right? Like Godfather 2 and nothing like that.
No, not quite. No, none of them hit like WrestleMania 11.
Right. I was thinking about WrestleMania entrances in general, and they're usually a lot bigger than they normally are with pyro and special vehicles sometimes that drive you down to the ring. Have you given any thought to like a Zamboni machine entrance, or maybe you're flanked by the entire 93 Montreal Canadian team?
Yeah, that'd be great. I've tried to get a special entrance, but I always get told in return is, you don't need one. That's not you. Like, it'd be nice. Last year, actually, is the closest I came. I managed to drive a golf cart down the ramp. Yeah, but I don't think the Zamboni or having a big group with me is going to work out. I always get pushback, so
really,
I'll keep trying. Okay. Yeah, I'll keep trying.
Yeah, have that worked into your next contract. Listen, I have to be honest. I don't like the way Randy Orton's been talking to you, saying he's going to punt your head through the roof.
On WrestleMania, grandest stage of all, I am going to send his head clear over the freaking roof.
That seems excessive, and you probably should just call the police, but you choose to settle it like men in the squared circle.
Yeah, wrestlers in general react weirdly to things that normal people would just call the authorities for. We just decide to make it way worse. And that's what we're going to do at WrestleMania. You know, him wanting to pump my head off, notwithstanding, it's actually a real thrill to be at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, you know, a guy I looked up to and watched for so long. It's just too bad I'm going to have to, you know, put him in a wheelchair there. But, you know, he makes his decisions. It's actually his birthday today.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow, I hope he doesn't have some kind of mistake with the candles gone bad. That could really ruin things for the next couple of weeks.
Or it would just make my life a lot easier, you know?
That's true, yeah. Listen, I love your style. Roddy Piper was my favorite. And you're similar to Roddy in that you're one of the best guys on the mic right now. When you cut a promo, do you feel like you're looking to be funny, or are you looking to say what might actually hurt someone's feelings, or is it a mixture of both? Walk me through it.
You know, I just want it to be memorable. That's really what I approach everything I do in wrestling, whether it's my matches, my promos, anything. I just want it to be memorable. So I just I talk and I say the things that I think I want to hear if I was watching the show and, you know, watching me in this situation. And I think that's always helped me have a pretty good connection with our audience. And, you know, it's helped me do well. So I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, really.
Do you think I had a stint in the WWE? You're going to find this hard to believe. About I don't even know how many years ago now. It was probably 15 years ago with Santino Marella, and we cut a promo in the ring. And that was back when the fans were into what? After every sentence, they would go, what? Does that distract you? Does something like that distract you? They don't maybe do that as much, do they?
No, they still try. I'm actually, I would say, without tooting my own horn too much, I think I'm one of the best at not letting them take over with that.
Maybe it was the way he likes to cross-dress. Or maybe it was a string of horrible movies.
A lot of people it does throw off, but I'm able to kind of power through and manipulate them so that they stop. But they do. I mean, you know, Stone Cold, he left a hell of a legacy behind, right? But that's the one thing that I think everybody wishes he maybe hadn't left to him, you know?
It would intensify. Yeah. By the way, these autograph cards of yours have taken on a life of their own on the internet. The things you inscribe are very funny. You wrote, I once ate soup. Some of the other things up there, you wrote, I like several Shakira songs. The bloodline aren't really related. I think more athletes should do this. Do you have a favorite one that you've done?
Yeah, there's one actually that I don't think somebody's found yet. And I just wrote, don't follow us at the airport. And, you know, it's ironic because a lot of people that do that are the ones that want to get the card signed. So hopefully they get the message, because it's great. We love our fans, but when we're coming off a flight or rushing to, you know, get to a building, it's the last thing we need is to have a meet and greet that baggage claim. But, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's stressful enough getting through TSA and everything,
exactly.
with pre-check or otherwise. All right, so Mania's in Vegas this year. After or before WrestleMania, do you get to go out and enjoy Vegas at all? I'm not sure if you gamble. Do you go to shows? What do you like?
Whenever I go there, I like going to shows. I actually managed to, we had a show there, a SmackDown there a couple of years ago, and I managed to go see Adele. The second my segment was over, I raced over to go see her because I'm a big fan of her as well as Shakira. But yeah, you know, I try to go see the shows, and it's actually my daughter's birthday the day after WrestleMania. So they're going to be out there, my wife, my kids, my parents. So we'll go celebrate there. And it's going to be a good time.
Very nice. You're probably Adele's biggest wrestling fan, I would imagine. I don't know. Are there any others, or you don't even bring it up in the locker room?
I'm sure there's many, but I would say I'm probably her biggest one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good enough. What about gambling itself? Any stories of you and The Undertaker taking down a mini baccarat table?
Definitely. No. First of all, I don't understand how to do it a lot. You know, like I've tried the slots here and there, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just pressing, and it never works out. So it's not really my thing.
Good. Hold on to your money. As a hockey fan and a wrestler, I have to ask you what you thought of all the brawls between the USA and Canada at the Four Nations face-off.
I mean, it's certainly made for an interesting game. And ultimately, it was obviously really pretty incredibly sweet to see Canada win the whole thing. Mm-hmm.
All right, I was thinking about this. If you win at WrestleMania and beat Randy Orton, and, you know, between that and Canada winning the Four Nations Cup, I might have to bet the Blue Jays to win the World Series. Is that wise?
I mean, we've got momentum. We'd have momentum for sure. I don't know if I don't know if I'd say it's wise, but the momentum would be there. Yeah.
All right, I do a lot of dumb things, so I might as well just add it to the list. Our producer, babyface Joel Solomon, wanted me to point out that you have one of the best T-shirt collections he's ever seen. How many are in your collection? I would say the over-under is 74.5.
Yeah, I'd say at the very minimum 50 to 60, I'd say would be a fair guess, but you might be right. It might be a bit more. I buy all the T-shirts too. Like, people think I get them for free, but no, I support my friends. I support my fellow wrestlers, or in some cases, I buy them just to piss them off at a later time, you know? But it's a tool, you know? It's a great tool. So, I've enjoyed doing that and throwing little Easter eggs out there with my T-shirts for sure.
What's the most you've spent on a T-shirt that you've tried to track down?
So, actually, the Stardust by WWE, because that's what we wear on the TV shows. There's plenty of Stardust T-shirts that people made, but, you know, I can't wear that. I found it on a website of a store, but I guarantee thing in at least 10 years, if not more. So, or, you know, whatever, maybe 8 years, because that's when Stardust was around. But I don't remember how much I paid for it, but that was definitely the one that I had to dig the deepest for to get.
It didn't smell like it just came out of the laundry when you got it?
No, actually, I had to wash it a couple of times to make it bearable.
Okay. All right, Kevin, before you go, I've got one more question for you. We call this Cousins Conundrum.
Cousins Conundrum.
Here's the conundrum. You get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame before your career is even over. They say, you know what? We've seen enough. Kevin, you are in. But here's the conundrum. In order for that to happen, once a year for the rest of your life, Randy Orton gets to come out of nowhere and RKO you, and you have no idea when it's coming. Do you take the deal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the RKO's hurt, but, you know, eventually I can get back up. I think the satisfaction of knowing that Randy has to, at least once a year, leave his house, find me, just the hassle it would be for him is good enough for me. And I get to be in the Hall of Fame, so.
Yeah, so you're inconveniencing him, but you're mowing the lawn, you're bouncing a baby niece on your knee. It could happen anytime. You're still taking it.
Yeah. Just, I'm telling you, I know how little Randy likes leaving his house. So it would be more painful for him than me, you know?
You'll make it hard for him. Yeah, all right. All right, Kevin, thanks so much for being here. Hey, it all goes down April 19th, 20th in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, streaming on Peacock. Good luck at WrestleMania, Kevin.
Thanks a lot, man.
We'll be right back to talk Final Four with the D3 when Cousin Sal's winning weekend continues. Welcome back to Cousin Sal's winning weekend. Let's bring in my pals. They've been surviving and advancing ever since I met them. This year, though, their brackets have more X's than Jennifer Lopez. They're my wizards of wagering, my gurus of gambling, my barons of betting, my overlords of the odds. From the Against All Odds podcast, the D3, Harry, Brother Bry, and Darren the Parlay Kid. What is happening, fellas?
What's going on, Sal?
Yeah, what's up, Sal?
What's going on, buddy?
Well, I just chatted with Kevin Owens. Good dude. I love his gimmick. Cut off, sleeveless t-shirt, shorts. Kind of reminds me of what Harry would look like as a wrestler if he lost 70 pounds and had athletic ability. But we wish him luck against the Viper Randy Orton at WrestleMania in a couple weeks. Harry, what would be your gimmick? What if you were a wrestler? Have you ever
That doesn't sound bad. I'd probably go with a mask. Probably go mask.
Good idea.
Everybody would appreciate that.
Some real flamboyant colors, maybe. You know, I don't know. Maybe some pink and light blue. I don't know. Really throw things off on guys. I don't know.
You'd put like a plastic mask or like a mask like you're kind of
like Rey Mysterio
describing the Ultimate Warrior with the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
That was good
Not
too.
Painted. Yeah. Actual mask. Mexican wrestling mask.
Right.
Okay, that'd be great.
Nacho Libre, baby.
All right, we'll have to do some more wrestling talk later. Let's get into it though. Saturday night at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, the men's Final Four. We're going to start with an SEC matchup between Florida and Auburn. It's a rematch from back in February 8th. Florida won that on the road 90-81. Let's give our picks and our props. Florida, 2.5-point favorite and 159.5 against Auburn. A little strange that the overall number one seed, Auburn, the toughest team all year, is now getting 2.5 points from the 4th overall number 1 seed. I know it's close, but still weird. You know what? I think we're almost all on the same page here. Brother Bryce, start us off with your pick here.
Yeah, look, I've gone against Florida for a few rounds here, and they keep surviving, but I'm going to take them now, -2.5 in this one. Both teams have played with a little bit of fire so far in the tournament. And Auburn, too, they've gone on a couple of big runs that have won them the last 2 games, so I don't think that's going to happen against a team like Florida. Clayton has been maybe the best player so far in this tournament, certainly the most clutch. And I think what happens is this game's going to be relatively close for most of it, but I think Florida pulls away late. The Clayton, some of the others, some great free throw shooters they have. So I think they pull away late, maybe win by 5 or 6 here, Sal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have him winning by 6. Walter, he just figures it out eventually, Clayton, right? I'm very impressed with his style of play. He orchestrates a great run, and the opposition kind of has no idea what they got themselves into. By the way, you said Auburn's about runs. Florida really is. They had an 11-0 run in the win over Maryland in the Sweet 16, 10-0 run early against Texas Tech in the Elite Eight, and then, of course, to close out the game, they had a 9 or 10-0 run, I think, against Auburn earlier in the year. They did that 31 times this year, 9 or 10-0 run or more. I don't think Bruce Pearl has an answer for their guard depth, actually. And again, we don't know what we're getting with Janai Broome, honestly. We think he might be 100%, but who knows? I know he came back in that game to close out, to get to the Final Four. But Thomas Haugen, he could create problems. Alex Condon also on the inside. I have 83-77. Harry, how do you have it?
Pretty close, Sal. I'm on Florida as well. My bracket has the Gators cutting down the net, so I'm all over Florida. They're 27-11 against the spread this season, 9-3 against the spread on neutral sites this year, 12-0 straight up in those games. Florida's been a little shaky lately, but they've had time to fix things. The Broome injury you mentioned, Sal, for Auburn, is something to keep our eye on as the game moves along. Overall, the guard play, as I've mentioned before, is the key for Florida's head coach, Todd Golden. Clayton, Martin, and Richard all are amazing athletes. And Florida, like you mentioned also, Sal, beat the Tigers in Auburn earlier this year by 9, and the Gators didn't even have Elijah Martin in that game. I've got Golden and his Gators 80, Auburn 73.
All right, you'll take that score, parlay kid, because you're going to go under. You'll take mine too, but only by a half. Mine goes under.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go under 160.5 points here, Sal. So this game is being played in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome. 8 out of the last 9 semifinal and final games at this location have gone way under the total of 160 points. You know, with the depth perception issue at these type of stadiums, teams usually come out ice cold in these type of the games, and then they have to fight to get over this total. I just don't see it happening. Auburn D blocks shots at a top 5 rate. They limit opponents' threes, and when the opponents do shoot them, they shoot them at a low percentage. Both teams have had their games go over 160 total in about only 1/3 of their contests this year because they're both pretty good defensive teams. They can score, but they do play good defense. I think the conditions of this game, where it's being played, will keep this game under 160.5.
All right, I like it. Although, I used to do this every year. Bri, right? The first half unders with that exact reasoning. They're shooting into the stadium lights and everything's front end. They're not, conditioned with the rims and everything. Although they did play in a stadium last week, right? Wasn't that weird? It was Lucas Oil last week. So I don't know. And I think a couple of those games did go under. All right, let's do a prop here. I'm going to have fun with this. Everybody loves Walter Clayton Jr. I'm going first basket plus 500. It was 650. Somehow people got wind of the fact that I was picking this, and they're all over it. So now it's 5-1. I still like it. It's a fun one. We're giving out biggish plus odds. He made a 3 against Norfolk State to start the game in the tournament. He was his team's first scorer against Maryland in the SEC tournament final against Tennessee. He hit a 3 to kick off the festivities. He's aggressive early. He's great at creating shots. Plus 500, a little high for this. The tip is at what? 6:09 Eastern, 6:10. You'll have already won your bet. You could take your family to Chili's, whatever, and watch the rest of the games. I'm going to take Clayton first basket plus 500. Harry, you also have a Clayton prop.
Yeah, let's go over 20.5 points scored, Sal, at minus 115. Clayton's been spectacular in the tourney with 23 or more points in 3 of the 4 games so far. He also had 22 in both games versus Tennessee and Alabama in the SEC tournament. He seems to like the big games when the pressure is on. He's had at least 3 threes in 7 of his last 8 games, had 30 points versus Texas Tech. He's the guy for the Gators, and he goes for at least 21. Clayton over 20.5, Sal.
All right, Parlay Kid, you have another player prop here?
Yeah, Denver Jones over 15 points at plus 176. Jones came to Auburn. He averaged over 20 points per game at Florida International. Hasn't had to be that type of scorer since he's arrived at Auburn, but he's gone over this total in 2 out of the 4 games of the tourney so far. He shoots free throws at a 90% clip, shoots threes at about 40% clip. He's the 5th leading scorer on this team, so maybe Florida kind of lets him get his and tries to contain the other players. Let's take Jones at a nice price here, 15 plus points.
All right, but what if Jones scores 161 points? Then you're total. Then you're totally screwed.
I'll middle it. That'd be okay. I'd live with that.
All right, Parlay Kid, you'll like your brother's pick. He's going under with a player prop.
Yeah, I'm going to take Miles Kelly under 12.5 points. Look, Kelly shot 38% from 3 during the season, but he's really been bad over the last 3 games. He's only averaging 6 points per game over the last 3. 5 for 27 from the field, 3 for 18 from 3. Florida's a better defensive team than they get credit for. And like you were saying earlier, Sal, in these large stadiums, it'll be even harder to shoot from the outside. So I would take Miles Kelly under 12.5 points.
There you go. All right, that's all 4. Now on the other side of the bracket, we're looking at the Dukies minus 4.5 and 135.5 against Houston. Parlay Kid, we're kind of split on this, the 4 of us. You have a fun way of looking at this with Duke.
Yeah, and I can't blame us for being split here. 2 excellent teams, Sal. I'm going to be taking Duke's win margin 1 to 10 points at plus 165. To me, Duke is the most talented team in the country. And I think Duke's D is closer to Houston's D than Houston's O is to Duke's offense.
Wait a minute. Let me write this down.
You got that? You got that?
Confusing. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right, I
So
got it.
you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
So this is to not discount this Houston team. So they're great, and they're going to match this Duke team blow for blow. But Duke's talent will rise to the top to close out this game. So it should play close. I don't really have to worry about them getting over the 4.5. A 1-point win is just as good here for me. Again, 1 to 10 margin plus 165.
All right, I said we're split. Harry, you're taking Houston plus the points.
I'm going to take the points here, Sal. It seems like out of the 4 teams, the Cougars are getting the least credit. Almost feels like a redheaded stepchild as they take on Flag and Duke. Look, they lost 4 games this year. 1 loss, they lost by 5 on a neutral court to Auburn, and they were winning at halftime. And the other 3 losses, they all lost in overtime. Only 195 miles separates Houston and San Antonio, and Houston will be well supported. LJ Cryer, not great in his last 2 games. He erases that on Saturday. Big game out of him, and Houston shows how solid they are on defense. Look what they just did to Tennessee. Seems just too easy to take Duke here, Sal. This game's a great one. Somebody wins 71-68, but give me the 4.5.
All right, I had 176.7 miles. I'm not even kidding, between Houston and San Antonio. But we could look. It's Google Maps versus Yahoo. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
Man, Harry, the bigger problem is we're up both on the same teams in both these games. I have Houston winning it all. I had them beating Duke, so I have to stick with it, even though Duke has looked unbeatable in the 2 weeks since I penciled in the Cougars. But I'm going to play this differently. I'm going Houston over 65.5 points. They're over 65 in 3 of their 4 tournament games, 65 plus in 31 of 35 regular season games. Cryer's their guy. Emmanuel Sharp has been shooting very well, averaging 17 a game over the last 8. And Duke's going to have their hands full defending Houston. Shoots 40% from 3 and is very good at creating offensive opportunities. They're a top 15 team also in the nation in offensive rebounds. 4 players averaging double figures rebound-wise. Kelvin Sampson's team is not going to lay down for the Dukies. 72-68. Houston wins, playing the over 65.5 team points. All right, Bri, I would say break the tie, but you're going to make this a tie. You're taking Duke.
Yeah, I'm taking Duke, but it's funny. Last year and the year before, I took Houston to win. It also figures this season how well they're playing. But I do like Duke minus 4.5. You know, they have been absolutely dominant for 2 months with Flag on the floor here. Like Darren was saying earlier, they're the most well-rounded team. And look, I think Houston's going to have a tough time scoring. I know you're taking the over yourself, but I think Houston's going to have a tough time scoring. Duke has the size to match up against them, and they're going to just have an easier time scoring here. And when you look back to last weekend, I thought Tennessee was just a great matchup for Houston in that game. Not a great offensive team, and Houston just beat them up. So I think I think right now we're going to see the trends continue. The better the favorites here continue to win these games outright. So I'll take Duke winning 73-62. Sorry, Sal. That's
All
not
right,
good for
that's
you.
okay. I'm sorry, too, because you know who's going to have trouble scoring? Guy named Cooper Flagg. I'm going under 18.5 points. By the way, this is jumping between 17.5 and 18.5. If you're going under, try to get it at 18.5. As great as Duke is and as good a scorer Flagg is, they don't really rely on him to put up 20, 25, 30. You got Knipple, you got Proctor, Maluach. You got all those guys. He failed to score 19 or more in 10 of his last 12 games, which is surprising. This player prop, I think, is way jacked up because he's the most famous dude playing in the 3 remaining games. I'm going to play it under. I think Boy Wonder ends up with somewhere between 14 and 16 right there in that range against Houston's feisty defense. I like it at 18.5 going under. Parlay Kid, you have an over here.
Yes, Sal, I'm going to be taking Emmanuel Sharp over 12.5 points at -122. He's gone over this very easily the last 2 games, and in 7 of his last 9, he has gone over this point total. 45 points in his last 3 games, shooting at over 40% from 3 for the year. I like Sharp here. He's the second leading scorer on this Houston team to get this done.
All right, Bri, Knipple.
Yeah, I'm going to take Con Knipple on Duke under 14.5 points. You know, Knipple is going to likely be a top 10 pick in the draft. And, you know, he was very good against Bama and very good against Arizona. But this, like, you know, even though I have Duke winning this game, Houston is, you know, only giving up 57 points per game so far in the tournament. They can be suffocating at times, and I think that could be the case with some of the guards here. But you have between Knipple, Flagg, Proctor, they're not all going to play well in this one. And I think if they're going to stop anybody, Knipple is going to be the guy here. So I'd take the under 14.5 points, though.
Okay, Harry, keeping with the Houston Cougars advancing theme, you like Cryer to have a big game here, right?
Yeah, 20 or more points, you get plus 220, Sal. Cryer's led the Cougars in scoring the past 2 seasons. He scored 30 in the NCAA tournament in past years. He had 30 versus Gonzaga. This year, Cryer's had 20 or more 10 times this season. Duke likes to push it up and down the court. That should give Cryer the ball a bit more and create some more opportunities to score for him. Again, the senior hasn't had a tremendous last 2 tournament games, but Cryer shows up big time in his home state of Texas, Sal, on Saturday, and you get a nice price of plus 220 for 20 points or more.
How far is Houston from it? Did we figure that out? No one could ever figure that out from San. All right, let's look ahead, give out our pick for most outstanding players. Some good odds here. If there's a team you think can win it all, might be better off going with this bet instead. Most outstanding player, Cooper Flagg is favored at plus 115, Walter Clayton plus 380, Janai Broom at plus 700, LJ Cryer plus 1100, and Wager Rager, I gave out Cryer at plus 1100. Has had a good tournament. Now let's be transparent here. This award is given, although we've had some weirdness with this, it's supposed to be Bri for the semifinal game and for the final game.
Yep.
That's all that's supposed to be considered, right? Okay.
Yep. Just for the Final Four, just the last 2 games.
All right. So the fact that he had 30 against the Zags and 17 against Tennessee doesn't matter leading into this. But what I like about this is Houston's plus 420 to win the whole thing, but their best player is plus 1100. And that's too wide a gap. I'm going to double up here. I'm taking LJ Cryer plus 1100. Parlay Kid, you are taking Cooper Flagg the favorite.
Yeah, and I love your reasoning. And full disclosure for me here, I would probably just take Duke to win it all plus 100 rather than to take Flagg at plus 115.
Right.
But I do like Flagg here. If I have to make one pick, I'll take Flagg just because he's the best player on the best team. He's averaging 19.5 points a game in this tournament so far. I know that's irrelevant at this point. And is averaging about 8 rebounds a game. I think this is a kid that is made for this moment, Sal. I think he was born for this. I think he has a huge Final Four and finals game, and he'll take home the MVP. But just if I were to play it safe, I would just take Duke to win it all plus 100. But
right.
Flagg, MVP, best player in the country.
Harry, you have Florida to win it all, so you're taking Clayton at plus 380.
Yeah, look, you can just tell this guy wants the ball in his hands in crunch time. He was flawless in the comeback win versus Texas Tech. This Florida team has been great all year, and a ton of the credit should go to Clayton. He's led this team in scoring in 7 of his last 8 games. He's led the Gators in assists 6 of his last 11. Plus, he's shooting over 45% from 3 in the tournament. Clayton is a star, Sal, and he shows it in the Lone Star State on Saturday night.
All right. Crunch time means something totally different to Harry. We won't get into that. All right. Bri, you are taking the longest of long shots here.
Nestle?
Yeah, long shot here. I'm going to take Tyrese Proctor at plus 5,500. Now, like Parlay Q was saying, like if you like flag in this, unless you get a little bit better number than plus 115, I think you should just take Duke to win it. But because this is based on the Final Four, anything could happen here. And Proctor's been really good, right? In the tournament so far, he's averaging 17 points per game, making 4 threes per game, and he's shooting an insane 64% from the three-point line. So, what happens if, like you were saying, Sal, with Houston shutting down flag a little bit, maybe Duke wins a low-scoring game there, and Proctor gets hot from 3. I definitely think there's some value here in this one at Proctor for 55-1.
All right. And you could compare these to the odds that you would get for most points in the Final Four. So they're pretty similar, but you have the you have the luxury of not having to win that final game for your guy to potentially win.
Yep.
Anyway, we've got to take a quick break. When we get back, more with the D3. We'll jump over to the women's Final Four, give out our best bets for that, plus a visit from the make-believe riverboat captain. Don't move. It's all next on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. All right, welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Still joined by the D3. And fellas, April's a very underrated month for sports. You got the Final Four, you got the Frozen Four, baseball season underway, the Masters, the end of the NBA and NHL seasons. I bet heavily on the family Easter egg hunt, and of course, Wrestlemania. And the captain of the Riverboat Casino reminded us that 40 years ago, this past Monday, was the first Wrestlemania, and he wants to know, what is your favorite Wrestlemania 1 memory? And you could bet on this. I don't know how you could bet on your favorite memory. It's weird that he would get inside your head. Anyway, here are the odds. Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, beating Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper, 3-1 odds. Andre the Giant slamming Big John Studd, 7-1 odds. Wendy Richter winning the WWF Women's title, 15-1 odds. Liberace dancing with showgirls, 50-1 odds. Or the field at even odds. Brian, I don't even know how old you were. Were you old? Were you born old? I don't even know you were born. But you have a memory of this.
I do. Look, I'm going to go with the Hogan Mr. T match here. And, how great. How great. I know you hate Hogan, but how great was wrestling back then? Well, I was 5 years old, Sal, but I still remember watching this, like vividly, like WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 3. I really remember these matches. But for me, it had to be Hogan versus Mr. T. Look, first of all, Billy Martin was the special guest ring announcer.
Right.
Muhammad Ali was the guest ref. I will say this shaped my life. Again, you're going to hate me here because my 2 favorite wrestlers after this became Hulk Hogan and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And it's great stuff. You go back and watch this match. The first 7 minutes are literally the 4 guys are just like standing in the ring doing nothing, just like talking for the first 7 minutes. It was like a 20 to 25 minute match. Not much is happening at all. Mr. T's doing like amateur wrestling moves here. So, as a kid, but it was, in all honesty, like the 80s of like the WrestleMania in the 80s were potentially the best events ever growing up in your lifetimes, right?
No question about it. I mean, I was kind of at this match. I'll go now. I'm going to take the field, even though it's the same match, but I'm going to say the beginning of the match. I know you thought it was boring. I thought it was stupid the way it ended. I mean, there was a lot of cheating going on. The officiating was horrible between Pat Patterson and Muhammad Ali, but the electricity was like indescribable. I was at the Feld Forum, which is down the block from Madison Square Garden. I paid like $20 to watch it when all the action was right down the street for $50. Just didn't have the money there. I was wearing a kilt. Like you said, Billy Martin there, Muhammad Ali, Hogan and Piper start off. And like you said, nothing happened. Hogan and Piper start off. Hogan tags out immediately so that Piper could be up against Mr. T. And because Hogan was such a sissy, Piper and T go nose to nose. By the way, Roddy's physique was insane. If you compare like March of 85 to like June of 84, I don't know if he had any help. I don't know if he told me, but take a look at him. He's like freaking pretty jacked. They start slapping each other. And then, like you said, it turns into an amateur match. Piper riding him. Eventually T gets out. And 13-year-old me lost his voice like 2 minutes into the match. About as excited as I've ever been during a sporting event in my life. Dumb ending, though. All right, so we have the same match. Parlay Kid, you're going Andre the Giant, Big John Studd.
Yeah, and I also remember Gene Okerlund, I think, sung the national anthem to start the whole festivities off that day,
so
too.
The story,
so I thought that was
sorry
pretty cool.
To interrupt you, but he wasn't supposed to, and they had some kind of celebrity lined up, and they've kept it tight-lipped as to who that was supposed to be. They didn't show up at the last minute, so
Wow.
Mean Gene had to do it. Yeah.
That's incredible, Sal. So, yeah, I love the whole Andre the Giant, Big John Studd thing, partially because, Sal, as you know, you used to walk around the hallways of the Elwood Junior High School offering, I think, $5 to anybody that could slam your friend Big John Schoening
Right. It's
in the hallway.
$15.
And if anybody was almost attempting to do it, you would then come from behind and knock somebody down.
Yeah.
So you had your own thing going. So that always resonated with me. So, yes, in that match, Andre does slam Big John Studd. He gets to $15,000, right? Starts throwing the money into the crowd before Heenan takes the money and runs away with it. Great moment. What an event that was. What a huge event.
It was crazy. There was a lot of buildup over Studd has never been slammed. Andre's never been slammed. If you go back like 2 years, there's footage of both those guys being slammed multiple times, but it had never been done before. All right, Harry, what are you going with here?
All those are really good, but are you kidding me? It's Liberace. At 50-1, he'd be the winner at 5-1, Sal. Look, you got probably the most masculine manager or head coach in all of sports history, Billy Martin, introducing the Rockettes and Liberace into the ring. He's doing leg kicks with the ladies, Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse the Body, couldn't get enough of him. Liberace's wearing some gold tan, like hefty bag of clothes or whatever. But in fairness to Liberace, still dressed better than any event Parlay Kid has ever had to attend before in his life.
Wow.
So I'll give Liberace credit for that. And by the way, Sal, also, I got some things in common with Liberace. I don't know if you know.
I know it. You have to tell me.
But he's probably the best piano player ever. Maybe Barry Manilow's second. I took piano lessons for 4 years. He's from Wisconsin. He's part Polish. I'm part Polish as well. And when I moved to Vegas in the early 90s, I did live 3 minutes away from the Liberace Museum, baby. He was a must-watch for the WrestleMania. It was fantastic. Liberace's my call.
Hopefully the captain is happy with that. Let's get back to betting. Earlier, we gave out our wagers for the men's Final Four. Now we got women's Final Four bets for you. Bri, you pay the most attention to this.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the lead. You lead off here. Tell us what you like.
Yeah, look, I had UConn to win the whole thing. I gave that out also at the beginning of the year, but I'm going to go with the UConn South Carolina money line parlay at -119. UConn seems to be a team of destiny right now, most well-balanced team in the country. I feel like they're kind of like Duke on the men's side. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. They can go big, they can go small, but look, the Paige right now is just playing at another level than anybody else, averaging 35 points per game over her last 3 games. She may be the best college shooter I have ever seen. So at times she just looks automatic. I mean, look at her numbers. They're just fantastic. Her with the combination of her and Sarah Strong together, too much right now. And then I like South Carolina. This is the 4th time these teams are matching up. But South Carolina dominated in the SEC championship. Should be a low scoring game. I just think Texas is going to have a hard time scoring, Sal. So UConn, South Carolina, money line parlay here.
Oh, it seems too easy right there. All right. I may or may not have a lot of money on UConn money line with the 2 -650 favorites in the UFC this weekend on the undercard. I may. I don't know. Maybe I made that up. I'm going to play off the Page talk here. 30+ against UCLA, +168. Was she the greatest UConn player of all time, men or women? Tate and I debated. Not really a debate. We both said no. We debated on Through the Ringer. But I do think she's great. I think UConn's winning this whole thing. First, they need to get by UCLA, and I like Beckers to score 30+, 168. 3 30-plus point games this tournament, including a 40 spot against Oklahoma. Defensively, UCLA can give up monster games to stars. Is it Flo Johnson or Flo J? What is it?
Yeah, Flo J.
Flo J, yeah, that's what I thought. 28 for LSU. Maggie Dugan at 27 for Richmond. Juju at 29, 30, and 38 this year for the Trojans against UCLA. So the Bruins do allow big scoring games. Give me page 30 plus at plus 168. I think that's too much. Parlay Kid, you think we're leaning on UConn too much here?
Yeah, I think given the overall seed in this tournament, 7.5 points is just a little too much here. I mean, UCLA has only lost to one team this year, USC, and they've also trounced South Carolina early in the season, but by 15 points. They're a veteran team. They have really good size. I think it's just too many points to give a really good team like UCLA. Might not win, but I think they cover here.
Okay, so you don't think I should parlay UConn with Loma Luke Boonme and Dion Barbosa? Is that what you're saying there? Oh. All right. Harry, give us your pick here.
Listen, I got a 5-point teaser here, Sal. Texas, South Carolina, under 129.5, and UCLA plus 12.5. This Lady Longhorns defense has been spectacular in the tournament. They've given up just an average of 54 points per game and just held TCU to 47 points, their lowest total points of the season. They played South Carolina this year, and it went under 129 points. Plus, South Carolina is coming off a tough, hard-fought win versus Duke, where just 104 points were scored. UCLA, as TPK just mentioned, lost just one time this year, twice to one team this year, USC twice, and on a teaser, you're going to give them 12.5 points. Seems like a lot. Meanwhile, UConn just beat USC by 14, but the ladies of Troy were without Juju Watkins. Give me UCLA plus the 12.5, and Texas and South Carolina under 129.5.
All right, fellas, excellent work as always. Enjoy the Final Four. Harry enjoyed the number 4 at Sonic Burgers. We'll be right back to close things out on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. That does it. We're all done. I've already spoken to the refs. They're refusing to put more time on the clock. Gotta go. My thanks to Kevin Owens. Believe me, if I could bet on WrestleMania, I'd be wagering on him to beat Randy Orton and then probably parlay it with the Mets or something stupid and lose. My thanks to the D3. I gotta say, this week, they brought it harder than the Yankees using torpedo bats. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. And please always remember, you may feel like an underdog, but just know you're all my favorites. Happy handicapping.